From the author of Spinsterella, the strange and unusual romance and spellbound, a darker shade of black comes the legendary Magic Joker. Pick up the conclusions of the Spinsterella trilogy in paperback and e-readers this Halloween. I was watching a Diversity in Comics video last night, and he was talking about how SJWs just want to destroy Marvel. And as I was watching the video that he made talking about how these SJWs want to destroy Marvel, I finally figured out how to beat your social justice warrior. Now, this is not just beating a social justice warrior in Marvel. This is beating social justice warriors in the workplace and in any walk of life. The strategy for dealing with your social justice warrior is fairly easy, and I'm going to break it down in this video. Now, I recently wrote an ebook called Stop Simping in the Workplace, and in that ebook, I broke down the protocol for dealing with predatory women. And when I listened to Diversity in Comics talking about these social justice warriors, I began to figure out the pattern for their behavior, because their pattern for behavior is the exact same pattern of behavior that your predatory females participate in and your simps participate in. And when you are dealing with your social justice warrior, you have to understand one thing about your social justice warrior. Just like your predatory female, your social justice warrior thrives on environments where there are very limited rules and very limited structure. This is why they like an environment like a Marvel Comics, because in a creative environment, people are often very flexible with rules and there's very little structure. So your social justice warrior likes to gravitate towards these types of environments because they feel like they can come in these environments and be able to take over those environments, because that's one of the behaviors they participate in when they enter an environment. Just like your workplace hood rat or your other workplace predators like your gold diggers or your workplace manginas, what your social justice warrior will do is they will enter into an environment and then they will try to take over the environment. And that's what these predators do. They come into your work environment and they will just literally come in and take over. This is why workplace environments become infested by social justice warriors, because they come in and they try to make the workplace an extension of their home life and their personal life. And when it comes down to their home life and their personal life, it is chock full of chaos. This is why your work environments that are filled with social justice warriors just don't function, because these people are completely dysfunctional from day one. And if you allow them an inch of power, they will take over your entire organization. However, the reason why they take over these environments is due to 2 or 3 individuals in their workplace. One is your feminist who is in your workplace, and she will be someone who will be all about feminism. And what the social justice warrior will do is they will try to cater to them and try to appeal to them based on feminist theory, and that's how they get to corrupt some of the women in your workplace. But the most dangerous person in your workplace that can be corrupted by social justice warriors are your beta males. And your beta males are primarily one of the reasons why it is almost next to impossible to remove a social justice warrior from an environment. Because when it comes down to your beta males are always looking to try to enter into a covert contract with a female. Whenever they see females in an environment, they're always looking to try to find some way to enter into a covert contract with them, and they're always looking to submit and defer to them and their authority. Because when you have SJW females in an environment, your beta males will start submitting to them, or as we call it in the black community, simping for them. And when they start simping for them, they'll start enabling them by making excuses for them, giving them passes for bad behavior, giving them free things at work, and just letting them get away with all sorts of things that they would not allow any man to get away with. they will allow the SJW female to get a pass for all sorts of irresponsible, reckless, and egregious behaviors and unprofessional behaviors. And because your beta male continues to give them a pass, these females will literally take over your work environment, because when you have beta males in an environment, again, they always look to submit. And the reason why they're looking to submit is because what they want to enter into with the females is a covert contract. And that covert contract they're trying to enter into is, I'll let you get away with being unprofessional on the job so that I can try to get a date with you, or I can try to get some sort of personal attention with you. And the same thing happens on the job when these women are working with these SJW males in the workplace. Because what happens here is the women, because they are emotional, start liking the SJW male, and they start wanting to pay attention to the SJW male, and they want attention from the SJW male. So they start trying to create a covert contract with them, and they give the guy passes for his irresponsible, reckless, and egregious behaviors on the job. And that can also slow things in your workplace down in terms of productivity. When it comes down to your SJWs, whether they be male or female, what they want to do is, one, enter into a covert contract, and then two, establish something called the triple standard. What is the triple standard? The triple standard is this. The triple standard is where you have a workplace where instead of everyone following the one standard of the executives and management and the mission of the organization, you have three standards in terms of work. And one standard will be established for the SJWs, which is the social justice warriors. A second standard will be that for the traditional regular working class people, and a third standard for the boss. And under the triple standard, nothing gets done in the workplace, because what happens when you have an SJW in the triple standard is they're going to give all the SJWs a pass for their work, no matter how poorly it's done, no matter how poor quality it is done, no matter how incompetent they are. The SJW will give themselves some sort of pass for their unprofessional and incompetent work. Now, moreover, what they will do for your traditional people who are on the job is they will establish a high standard for their work. And what will happen is, under that high standard, these people will feel frustrated and overwhelmed, and they'll leave. And this is how your SJWs take over organizations, under the second standard. Because the first standard, they give themselves a pass, and under the second one, they use it to impose high standards on people, and that forces your good working class people out. And the third standard is where they have the covert contract with the boss, because the boss will then give the SJWs a pass, and then he does that so he can get a pass, and that's what leads to your organization winding up in a state of decline, because you have these two individuals who are under this covert contract giving each other passes for irresponsible, reckless, and unprofessional and egregious behaviors, and they're not thinking about serving the mission of an organization and meeting its goals. What they're thinking about is meeting each other's needs and satisfying each other just to collect paychecks at the expense of your organization. And this is what's happening at Marvel Comics right now, and this is why they're not able to produce any sort of comics in terms of quality. Now, when I look at your Marvel, they don't have to fall due to these social justice warriors, because again, there is a solution for dealing with your social justice warrior. And it's the same solution that I wrote about in Stop Simping in the Workplace for dealing with predatory females and simps, and what I put in the blog many years ago about how to deal with hood rats in the workplace. And the first thing you need in a work environment where you have an SJW infestation is you have to bring in a hard alpha male. With a hard alpha male, you're going to be able to deal primarily with this SJW infestation. Moreover, you need support from top management to be given to that hard alpha male. Now, when I think of hard alpha males, I'm thinking of someone like a Gordon Ramsay or like the previous Marvel editor-in-chief, Jim Shooter, someone who has is a strict authoritarian figure, someone who can establish a hard structure for rules and regulations, and someone who will not take any crap from anyone, and someone who will insist that standards are maintained. Once you have established this person in place as your leader of this organization, you will have quickly some heavy results when dealing with your social justice warriors. Because when it comes down to your social justice warrior, they do not like authority figures. That's something you need to understand. They do not like authority figures, and they do not like to work. One of the things that social justice warriors like to do is they like to get on a job, they like to talk about pushing an agenda, but you as a boss, by having an authority figure in place, the boss, what he's going to do is make these people start focusing on the goals of the organization. Because when I look at Marvel Comics right now, under Tom Beverett and Axel Alonso, they're beta males. And the reason why the company has gone off the rails is because these beta males do not know how to handle your SJW. Someone like Jim Shooter would know how to handle them. Someone like Gordon Ramsay would know how to handle them. Someone like myself would know how to handle them. And the first thing we would do is establish that hard line of authority. And whenever they start talking about their agenda politics or their identity politics, we're going to get them right back on track to what the mission of the organization is and what the standards of the organization are and what is required of them and what they are supposed to do when they are on the job. Because again, when it comes down to your SJW likes to push their agenda, but they do not like work. And when you're dealing with these predators like this, you have to make them focus on the work that they said they're going to do, because when they agreed to work for you, they agreed to do the work you asked them to do. And in artistic environments, people think that they have freedom, but again, when you're dealing with SJWs, you need hard structure. And when you establish hard structure, that's when you're going to start to see quite a few of the SJWs start saying things like, they're not happy here, they're not comfortable here, you're being too hard on them, and you cannot give in to the SJW when they start going into this shaming language. Because when they go into this shaming language, what they're trying to do is trying to break your resolve. And if you allow people to break your resolve, what's going to happen is your environment's going to go back into chaos. And when you're a boss, you have to pretty much get these people back in line. And what's going to happen with some of those SJWs when they see the hard line authority is the ones who really do not like structure, they're going to start either trying to find other jobs or they're going to resign, because that's how you deal with an SJW from the first part. The second part of dealing with an SJW has to do with the enforcement of rules and regulations. Because when you have an SJW in your work environment, you have to do things like always make sure you're asking them where they are at their work, and ask for examples of their work. Because what your SJW will do is they're going to try to deflect. They're going to try to make excuses. And you have to make sure that they get right back. You have to get them right back on the page and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. And again, when you start establishing rules and structure with your social justice warrior, that's going to lead to a high amount of turnover with these social justice warriors. Because these social justice warriors, they thrive in environments where there are no rules. They thrive in environments where there is no structure. They thrive in environments where there is no order. The more order and structure you establish with a social justice warrior, the faster they're going to head for the door. Because your social justice warrior, they like to push agendas, but they do not like work. And because they do not like work, that's when they're going to start heading for the door. Because when it comes down to your social justice warrior, they do not care about work. They do not care about the goals of an organization. They're looking for a place to collect a check at the expense of other people. And one of the things they try to do to collect a check at the expense of a business is make themselves out to be a victim. This is why they'll go out here with this identity politics, because they want to say they're advocating for a victim or a protected class like African Americans, Hispanics, homosexuals, or whatever social cause they're going for. But that's all a smokescreen, because when it comes down to the social justice warrior, they're all about their covert contract. And their covert contract is all about, I'll try to push this agenda, which is so-called diversity, like they're doing at Marvel. And really, it's all about getting paychecks for themselves at the expense of other people. Because if you look at most of their work, it does not really reflect people in the community or people's narratives in the community. Because as a black man myself, I can look at the work of someone like a Ta-Nehisi Coates and tell you that his reflection of African Americans in his comics is not a fair and balanced representation of African Americans in life, because it's just not a balanced picture. It's a picture meant to fit the social justice warrior agenda and the social justice warrior narrative. The same thing with your Gabby Rivera. Hers is not about presenting a diverse and balanced picture of Hispanics. It's about pushing the agenda of your social justice warriors. And when it comes down to your social justice warriors, again, they do not like environments with rules. They do not like environments with structure. And they don't like people establishing hard lines of authority. And the other way of dealing with them is you have to always make sure you always keep them on the page with rules. A good editor-in-chief or a good boss is always going to bring them to the rules and regulations of the organization and talk about things related to work. Because one of the things your social justice warrior is going to do, again, is going to deflect and try to bring things into their agenda. You have to, as a boss, keep them on your mission, because you are paying them to work towards your goals, not theirs. And you are paying them because you are investing in their work towards making profits for your organization. And this is what's happened at Marvel, is that they have lost focus due to these beta males like Axel Alonso and Tom Beverett getting caught up in these social justice warriors and their agenda, and they have taken them off the mission of publishing comic books. And a good, strong boss is going to come in and say, look, I need to get you back focused on this mission, and I need to get this organization back focused on the goals of this organization, which is publishing comic books and entertaining readers of all ages. If you can't do that, then you're going to have to leave. That's what a hard, strong alpha boss is going to do. And again, when you're a social justice warrior, here's things like rules, structure, and standards. This is when they're going to start, again, going into their shaming language and trying to make themselves into a victim. And then they're going to do something like resign. And one of the things that a company has to do to protect itself from your social justice warrior is let people know, again, their employment is at will, and if you're not doing the work of the organization, then you're going to have to go. The big problem with comics and these social justice warriors is that they keep letting people shame them into caving in and giving them what they want. I saw that similar with the whole Gail Simone situation, and when it was explained to me, I finally understood what DC needed to do. And again, they need to follow what the example of the NFL, as is what it's doing with this Colin Kaepernick. Right now, your NFL, they're holding a hard line, not caving in to the shaming language or the victim narrative. And they have to do that, because if you allow one SJW to come in, your entire organization will fall completely apart. Because instead of you doing the work that is established in the mission of your organization, you're going to be doing the work of your social justice warriors. And your social justice warriors don't want to work. They want to collect checks at your expense. They want to play the victim, and they use the position of the victim to get economic compensation from companies. It's literally a form of extortion. And what happens is many companies give into this extortion because they fear being sued, they fear their reputations being ruined. But you have to understand that you are going to lose either which way, so you may as well make a way to mitigate your losses. And the best way to mitigate your losses with a social justice warrior is by stopping them at minute one. And the first thing you do to stop a social justice warrior is by establishing your standards from the beginning. I was listening to people talk about how Heather Antos and many others got jobs at Marvel, and it was clear to me that the Marvel standard was not established from minute one, which is why your Heather Antos approached editors at Marvel talking about how she only had editing experience on one Kickstarter project, and all I would have to do to stop a person like that is ask them to show me their work. And once I took a look at their work and I saw I did not meet my standard, that would have stopped the social justice warrior right at the door. Again, when it comes down to your social justice warrior, they, in many cases, are manipulators and they are liars. And they try to use technicalities and terms to try to manipulate things to go their way. And what they want to do is get you to do things on their terms, not your own. When you deal with a social justice warrior, you always deal with a social justice warrior on your terms. And you make sure that they have to meet your standard. What happened with Marvel is that they keep meeting these SJWs at their own, on their terms, and keep going by what they want instead of insisting they do work by their Marvel standard. When you have a house standard like Marvel had back in the 80s, that kills social justice warriors dead right at the beginning of the of the starting line. Once they're done there, they cannot come into your organization and infest it, because the only way they can come into your organization is by meeting your standard and doing things on your terms. And after you establish a protocol for submissions and standards for submissions, you then go into your organization and start making efforts to deal with the social justice warriors who currently work in your organization. And in order to do that, that new alpha leader has to come in and explain what the rules are from here on in and what the standards are going to be from here on in. Because once they explain these rules and regulations, from they can't come into your organization, they can't hurt your organization. And if you start putting rules and regulations in place and explain rules and regulations to them from day one, that's when the tables are turned on the social justice warrior, because the social justice warrior lives to argue. The social justice warrior lives to go back and forth. The social justice warrior lives to manipulate facts and manipulate people. This is why people say SJWs lie, SJWs double down. And the reason why they are able to lie and double down is because they can manipulate beta males and feminists to believe their lies. And the whole thing is that when you have a hard alpha male and you have strict hardline authority, there is no one to lie to, because when it comes down to clear lines of authority, what's going to happen is these type of leaders, what they're going to do is they're going to establish rules from day one. They're going to explain the rules to you from day one. And when they go to discipline you, they're going to do things like record the meeting. They're going to have written notes, because they're never going to do anything oral, because the worst thing you could ever do with a social justice warrior is engage them in an oral argument, because these guys, like your predatory females and your manginas, are masters of oral combat. And engaging them in oral combat is a complete failure from minute one. You deal with these individuals by having rules and structure, and when you are disciplining these individuals, You take them into an office, you have a witness with you, and you have a camera recording while you are disciplining the individual or reprimanding the individual. That way you have a record of your interaction with that individual. Moreover, you make sure you have written records when you deal with a social justice warrior, because two things a social justice warrior can't escape from: one, a video recorded hard evidence of your interaction, and two, written records of their behavior right in front of you. When you have those two things, you have shut down the social justice warrior, because social justice warriors, because they lie and they double down, they can't escape a paper trail. Hard evidence is something your social justice warrior cannot escape. Just like the hood rats and the baby mamas, they use oral interactions to their advantage. You have to be able to shut that down. And the way you shut that down, again, is with video recordings and written documentation. Those two things will shut down your social justice warrior. And as you go out of your way to shut down the social justice warrior, what's going to happen is your organization is going to change. And what's going to happen is these social justice warriors are going to get pouty, they're going to get argumentative, they're going to get loud, and all you have to do when they start acting insubordinate like that is just fire them. Because once you have a record of their behavior and documents of their behavior, you have a clear paper trail once they start coming in talking about going to upper management or filing a lawsuit. Because if you have documentation to back up your claims of their behavior and documentation to back up your arguments, they can come in with all the shaming language they want and the victimization narratives that they want. All you have to do is point those individuals who are trying to advocate for these individuals right to your trail of hard evidence. Because one of the big problems that most companies have when dealing with predators like social justice warriors or predatory females is that they don't maintain a paper trail to deal with these individuals. The way to get rid of these individuals from your organization once you terminate them is to have documented evidence like written reports about disciplinary action and video recordings of what the person is being disciplined for. Because once you have that hard evidence, these people cannot come in and double down on their lies or present themselves as victims. Because eventually, what they're going to do when they see the environment not working for them, where they're being forced to meet standards, is they're going to leave. And once they see that they cannot come into an environment to do nothing, they're all going to either resign or be fired. And then you can start working towards rebuilding your organization. And the other thing you really need to remove a SJW infestation is you need hard support from executive management. Once you put your alpha leader in place in your organization, you have to give him power, you have to give him authority to be able to lead the organization and manage the organization effectively. Because another thing that your SJWs are going to try to do is they're going to try to go over the head of this boss. They're going to try to be friendly and be nice and say this guy is too strict, this guy is too mean. No, you have to stand right by this guy's side and let them do what they need to do. Because in order to exterminate this SJW vermin, you need to let them work. Because as this individual comes in to clean up the toxicity and clean up the toxic environment created by these SJWs, you're going to have a cleaner and more sanitized work environment. Because the longer you let this individual establish rules, establish structure, establish order, and demands that standards are maintained, what's going to happen is your work environment will become more productive and your work environment will be able to start meeting goals. Because the whole thing with dealing with your social justice warrior is you have to make sure that you are in charge, you are the authority figure, and and establishing that your mission and your goals are going to be a priority in your organization. Because your SJWs, how they come in is that they try to play up to your feelings and your emotions, and the only way to deal with an SJW is to keep hitting them with hard logic. And when it comes down to your SJWs, they'll try to be your friend, they'll try to be nice, but as an authority figure, you have to get them back on the page as related to work and work related issues, and making sure that their work meets your standard, not their standard. Because the big problem with most of these creative companies, like your Googles or your Marvel Comics, is that they're environments that are very open, and they're environments that really don't have really strong standards, and you have to have very high standards and very strong standards in order to get rid of your social justice warriors. Because your social justice warrior, again, they're just looking to make themselves a victim, and they use the victim position to shame people into hiring them, and to shame people into allowing them to collect a paycheck at their own expense. If you want to learn more about how to deal with workplace predators like simps, manginas, hood rats, and social justice warriors, I urge you to pick up my ebook, Stop Simping in the Workplace. It details all the solutions to deal with workplace predators and the history of this workplace simp and other workplace predators. And it's essential reading for anyone with a business. And if you'd like to help me make more videos, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.